Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us.
Well, hello, this is Paul Martin of Investor Connect. Today I'm here with Gabriel Wyner of Fluent-Forever. Gabriel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So what was your background before joining Fluent-Forever?
Strange. I used to be a mechanical engineer and an opera singer. So, yeah, practically speaking, the mechanical engineering side was the problem-solving degree. And the opera singing side was about, for the purposes of this business, meant that I needed to learn Italian, French, and German, and ideally Russian as well for that career. And so those two things together gave me a strong drive to learn languages and a whole bunch of problem solving in terms of how to do it better.
That's great. So you're in the language education space. Can you tell us a little bit more about that space?
It's crowded. There are a lot of large players in language education in particular, particularly if you start looking at the app market. That seems to be where people are expecting a ton of money and a ton of growth. And so there's some pretty large old and new players in that arena. There's Rosetta Stone as sort of the old guard, as it were. It's currently at around $500 million valuation, and then there's Duolingo, who's sort of the biggest of the new folks at about $1 billion. But there's a lot of folks in there. There's Drops, there's Busuu, there's Babbel. There's a whole bunch of people playing in that space.
Great. So how do you see the industry evolving? Where do you think it's going next?
Things are moving towards online tools, connected tools. A lot of mobile app development is kind of the big focus now. Everyone has a great computer in their pocket that has an internet connection. And so people are expecting kind of on-demand tools, and they're expecting also tools that teach at a very rapid clip, which is to say that people tend to not be sitting down and studying for an hour at a time. People want something that will just kind of give them something in a 5-minute session or shorter. Often Duolingo sessions tend to be around a minute and a half. And that tends to be a lot of the attention span nowadays. Is what can I do for my 2 minutes on the subway, or my 2 minutes, not even on the subway, like this grocery line before I check out at the counter. So that seems to be a big direction things are headed. And I guess in addition, there's a bit of a customization movement wherein it's not just here's some content, you can access it, but rather here's some content that is exactly fitted to you and based on a profile that we built about you and based about what we know about you. And as you use this thing, we're going to get better at learning how to serve you the right information that's just for your level, things like that.
Great. Well, it sounds like there's quite a bit of growth going on in this sector. What kind of growth rates are you seeing across all of those companies and across the market in general?
Quite a bit. In terms of just the sector of online language learning, so getting really specific, last year was at around $9.2 billion. So, and it's supposed to hit it, in 7 years. So 2026, it's supposed to hit the $20.2 billion mark. So we're seeing about more than 100% growth over 8 years. So that particular arena is growing quite a bit.
And why is it growing so much? Is there just more people trying to learn other languages? Is it everybody trying to learn English? Or what do you think is the key driving factor for such a growth rate?
The world is globalizing quite a bit. From year to year, people are interacting more with other cultures. And so I think, yes, there is a strong drive to learn languages. I think that this online language learning tool, market in particular, that's more a movement for folks moving away from textbooks and classroom stuff towards their phones, towards stuff in their pockets. So I think that's part of it. I think there does tend to be, with the world of social media and this idea of everyone being constantly connected, there seems to be a kind of, connectivity crisis, which is to say that as we get, in some sense, we're more connected nowadays and we're a lot less connected. There's people who are feeling really isolated despite the fact that they have 2,000 Facebook friends, they have all these likes, but nonetheless they feel super alone. And I think people have had this experience of, for instance, traveling to France and realizing that there's a whole bunch of people out there that they could connect to if only they spoke that language. I think that's also getting sort of underlined by the fact that the ability to function in another language is something that's becoming more and more available with tools like Google Translate. You can go to France and order coffees and get your tickets and stuff like that without knowing a word of French, just by showing full writing in your phone, I need a copy, and then having Google Translate it, and then showing that to the cashier. But those experiences are really isolating. They're experiences where you get the goods you want, you get the practical stuff that you're looking for, and yet you completely are disconnected from everyone around you. And I think experiences like that are the ones that convince someone, you know what, I want to sit down and actually learn this thing. I want to be able to talk to people. And that's been my feel for why this thing seems to be growing so much.
Well, that's great. So what are the challenges in running a business in the language education space? What do you see out there today?
So the fact that the market is so crowded is a big deal. You need to be really different in order to succeed in that market. And you need to be able to show some traction. Like, it's not just enough to be different. You need to be in front of people. People need to know you exist. They need to start seeing results that are different from what they've expected. I think there's another aspect of the fact that, like, with language education in particular, and maybe that can be broadened out to general education, a lot of people have had unsuccessful educational experiences. With language, that's a huge thing. I think most of the people in the U.S. have had some experience with taking languages in high school and not getting anywhere with a large time investment. And so if you're going to ask them to come back in and try this thing that they failed at, and try it again, you need to give them a reason as to why it's going to succeed this time. And I think that doesn't just apply to languages. I think if you're going to be teaching math, if you're going to be teaching biology, things like that, a lot of people have had failed educational experiences. And so there's a hump that people need to get over in terms of deciding they're going to want to try it again. And usually the way that you get over that hump is by offering them something that feels very different, very new. So I'd say those are some of the bigger challenges coming into this.
So for those investors out there thinking about investing in this space, what's your advice for them? What should they consider first before making an investment in this sector?
You need to know, like, if a founder is coming at you and basically saying, the thing that I figured out is I can get customers and I can just kind of market it, but they don't have an idea that's particularly new or more effective, then they might be able to get a bunch of customers, but they're probably not going to be able to retain them long term. Practically speaking, education is a field in which people need to invest a lot of time in over a protracted amount of time. So it's not just, I need someone to spend a few hours with my tool, but I need to spend those few hours and then continue spending those hours. And then they need to keep going month after month after month if you really want to build changes in the human brain. Like, the education sphere is the sphere of editing how people actually think. Like, it's a big deal to do. It takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of sustained effort. And so you being able to convince someone to pick something up, and that's it. If that's the only thing you have going for you, that's not going to be adequate to actually retain them. It's one of the things that's been sort of thrown around about some of the more expensive products on the market, for instance. I don't want to jump into specific competitors and talking about them, but like, if you have a high-priced product where you can get someone to impulse buy it in an airport, then great, you managed to get them to pay some money and put some money down. But if you aren't actually succeeding in teaching them something, and if they don't keep using it, then all you've done is gotten this one-time sum from this customer, and that's the end of your story. And they're not going to tell anyone to use your product. They're not going to recommend your product. Like, you just need to keep pumping more money into that marketing machine to hopefully convince someone else to do this impulse buy. But as soon as you have a product that really gives lasting results, then you can start having a really devoted customer base. So if you're going to be investing in this arena, I think making sure that the founders that you're looking at are able to deliver something that's new and able to deliver something that has actual value to the customers and is able to successfully teach a new concept to them.
Well, that's great. So how does Fluent-Forever fit into the landscape? What position are you taking, and how are you different?
So right now, I would say most of the players in the language learning market are teaching translations. They're gamifying it. They're doing whatever they can in order to teach translation. And one of the issues with that is that it puts a ceiling over the learner. If you're memorizing translations, about the most you can get, like a low intermediate level, like high beginner, low intermediate. And it's because translation is really hard. There's a reason why people charge $400 an hour for simultaneous translation. Like, the end goal of a language learner is, I just want to think in Spanish. I don't want to be able to translate from Spanish to English, because that's actually way harder than just thinking in Spanish. So the way that we build our tool is that we're actually building the associations you would want in the target language. So for instance, if I want to learn the word, perro, dog, me telling you that that's the word for dog is actually not going to it's not going to connect perro to pictures of dogs or to gato, the word for cat. Like, it's not going to connect perro to really anything other than some English word. And so that's going to prevent you from really using it fluently in a sentence until you get away from that and start actually building associations like dog is connected to cat, to animal, to wag, to friendly, to lassie. Like, all these connections are in my English word for dog, and they're not whatever, my Portuguese word for dog or something, where I haven't learned that language yet. So we're sort of positioning ourselves as a product that, you can spend time doing something with a competitor like Duolingo, or you can spend time with us. And if you spend time with us, you're actually going to get to substantial fluency, advanced levels, for the same amount of time investment. We found is that we can actually just find the customers that Duolingo has found, since that company has found 300 million customers. We can just target those folks and show them why their tool that they've been using hasn't been working. And we found there's a lot of dissatisfied people on that platform, and they convert really, really easily over to ours. So that has turned out to be our cheapest audience by far, and is an audience that is not going to run out anytime soon. There's 50 million people who like Duolingo on Facebook, and we can access all of them through that platform. So that's kind of been our positioning at this point.
Great. Sounds like a great business model and a compelling opportunity. So what else should we cover that we haven't in today's discussion?
I'm trying to think if there's anything that we haven't really run through that would be pretty useful for investors at this stage. We may have covered all the ground.
All right, that's fine. How best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Either through our website or LinkedIn. And our website is, I guess, the easiest to find. It's fluent-forever.com. Or if they want to try out the app, they can just go on the App Store of either Android or iPhone and look for Fluent Forever.
Great. Well, we'll put those in the show notes. Thank you for joining us today, and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Absolutely.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.